The holiday season is here, and statewide law enforcement officials have stepped up their DUI patrols. Last week, the state unveiled 6 new processing vehicles they'll be using to catch drunk drivers this holiday season. With the extra enforcement that that means drivers should be extra vigilant. And while first and foremost, don't get behind the wheel if you've had too much to drink, but second, if you do get pulled over, whether you've been drinking or not, there are some things that you should know about. Joining me now, defense attorney Charlie Naegle. Now, what is the first thing? Of course, let's start with at the party or the event that you're at. You were telling me that even a .08, even under that, could get you into some trouble.
Yeah, well, right off the bat, the first thing we need to remember is don't drink and drive. It's the best and safest way that you can do it. It's the best and safest way to not get in trouble. But you're absolutely right. The legal limit is .08. What that means is if you're below a .08, it's not illegal to drive. But what people don't realize is that if the officer, if you get pulled over, even if you've had one drink, if they can prove that you were impaired to the slightest degree, you can still be charged with a DUI.
I see. So it's more of the impairment, not necessarily the .08 limit.
Exactly.
Okay, then. Okay, you do get pulled over. What's the first thing you should think of or try to think of if you see those flashing lights behind you and you've had something to drink?
The first thing you need to do is make sure that you pull over safely, find a place to stop. The officer is going to be watching you. He's going to be looking for signs of impairment, and that's one of the first things they do is look to see how you handled the situation once the lights came on behind you.
Okay. Is there anything you can do before you get into the car that might help? Kind of give you a heads up. Hey, listen, you know what? You shouldn't be driving. Anything you should do with your friends, or you can always buy those little breath analyzers from stores.
You can buy those breath analyzers. Not everybody does it. Not everybody has them. I think what you can do is plan ahead, plan before the party, make sure that somebody is there going to be a designated driver.
Okay. When you get out there and you deal with the officers, I mean, should you be compliant as you can? I mean, how does that work?
Absolutely. Being defensive or combative with an officer is not going to help your situation at all. So basically, you want to be as cordial as possible, make sure you have your license and registration, and give the officer everything that he needs. The one thing you need to remember is that you don't have to speak. I mean, you don't have to tell the officer and answer all of his questions, just to speak as much as you have to, invoke your right to remain silent, call an attorney if you have to, but just don't say more than you need to.
Okay. And then, are there any other myths out there that people have talked about that really is not a reality of how to possibly, get away with things, or you know what I'm talking about?
There is quite a few things. I think one of the things that needs to be remembered first and foremost is that the officer is going to request that you do field sobriety tests, is what they're called. There's no obligation, there's no legal obligation for you to have to perform these tests. And so you can politely refuse, say, I don't want to do this without the presence of my attorney. You don't have to do those tests. There's only 2 tests that you'd have to do. It's under the implied consent law. That is, if the officer requests that you come back to the station and give a blood sample, or if you go back to the station, they want you to perform a breathalyzer test. That's the big Toxalyzer 8000. That's what you have to do. But the little portable breath test, you do not have to do that on the side of the road.
Okay, Charlie, thank you very much. Again, we're not saying that it's okay to get into a vehicle and drive if you've been drinking. We just want to make sure that everybody out there knows their rights in any kind of situation that might pop up. Just want to make sure that that's clear. We're not saying it's okay to do it.
That's absolutely correct.
Charlie, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it here.